The Council on American Islamic Relations was on TV 666 times in 2023. 481 of those broadcasts were attacks against the public in a foreign country. The breakdown of the categories of these attacks include a foreign country, Israel, Nazis, elected officials, businesses, prisons and watch list, teachers and schools, individuals, and finally the police. Although CAIR attacked the same Nazi group 3 different times, each attack is counted as a separate incident because they were weeks apart from each other. As opposed to Israel, which received a steady daily stream of attacks from CAIR between October and December, totaling 300 attacks in all. Even though, since October 7, CAIR has shown their loyalty is to Hamas and not to the United States, network affiliates are putting this group on TV more than ever. There has been a 216% increase in CAIR's TV attacks since 2018, and they show no sign of slowing down.
North Kingstown police are investigating after several people reported finding offensive flyers outside their homes this week.
Flyers are from a white supremacist group that says they're seeking members. Tonight we're hearing from town leaders and a civil rights advocacy organization who are both reacting to these troubling flyers.
So this is a group that has become more active in the last few years. They recently had a march in Maine where they held up anti-Somali flyers.
Sailor from the Council on American Islamic Relations says it's telling that the group isn't handing out these flyers face to face.
Now this one was attached to a rock and thrown from a car. So I think we can all appreciate that they felt a little bit nervous and afraid, and they should, because, white supremacy is something that most neighborhoods will reject.
In this morning's BizBuzz, a product with what appears to be a racially charged acronym gets pulled from Walmart shelves.
And the move comes after complaints by a civil rights group over a military hiking boot sold at Walmart. Well, here's a picture of the boot. It's called the Hudson Men's Military Hiking Boot, and it has the letters KKK embroidered on the tongue of the shoes. The Council on American Islamic Relations brought the product issue to Walmart's attention. Walmart says the product is inconsistent with their values and violates product policies. They are also reviewing how that placement was even allowed there.
Former Minneapolis police officer Justin Stetson is now charged with assault after the Attorney General's office alleges he kicked and punched a man who'd already surrendered to police in the days following George Floyd's murder.
We definitely welcome the Attorney General's decision to charge.
Jaylani Hussein with the Council on American Islamic Relations has led calls for accountability in this case for months.
Third-degree charge here is appropriate. Obviously, we could charge more, but I think it also shows that we do need independent prosecution.
Hamline University has been in the national spotlight all week after news broke that during the fall semester, a professor, Dr. Erica Lopez Prater, showed images of the Prophet Muhammad in an art history class she was teaching. She did so after she said she warned students in her syllabus at the beginning of the semester and again in class that she would do so in a lesson. The warning was there as it is widely offensive for Muslims to look at depictions of the Prophet. Well, that warning wasn't enough for at least one Muslim student in the local Council on American Islamic Relations who called her actions Islamophobic.
In her lawsuit, Lopez Prater also includes statements made by Jaylani Hussein, executive director of Minnesota's Council on American Islamic Relations, at a community listening session on campus organized by administrators, where he said Lopez Prater showed the images for no reason other than to provoke, offend, and hurt Muslim students.
We always knew that there is a small segment of Muslims that are okay with that, but the overwhelming majority of Muslims are not okay with it at all. And in this particular case, the Muslim student who raised the issue is not okay with it at all.
And the National Council on American Islamic Relations has said the academic study of the Prophet does not constitute as Islamophobia. But the local CAIR chapter disagrees.
We believe that this incident and the act that that individual did is Islamophobic. We, however, never mention that she's a bigot because of that incident.
A Metro man who no longer is on the no-fly list is now actually suing the Oklahoma City Police Department, claiming the department targeted him 5 times over the last 2 months.
He says 2 weeks ago they held him at gunpoint.
He has been repeatedly pulled over, arrested twice, and had his car searched. A swarm of officers, at least 10 of them, stood behind his car, pointing their guns at him and shouting orders. Sadiq thought he was going to be killed.
Sadiq Long's lawsuit is the latest in a series of high-profile incidents. The U.S. Air Force veteran made international headlines back in 2012 when he was put on the federal no-fly list and labeled an ISIS fighter, despite never being convicted of a crime.
The McAllister native was living in Qatar at the time, and it initially prevented him from flying to his home country to visit his mother. Long is no longer on the no-fly list. But his lawyers say the FBI watch list still haunts him because every time he drives past our state's automated license plate readers, officers actually get the alert. Oklahoma City PD says it's unable to comment due to pending litigation.
The greater Afghan Muslim community announced a list of demands for the Tracy Police Department to be better prepared to handle situations like the incident Friday, where an officer shot a 17-year-old Afghan refugee.
Use of force policy needs to be updated. They need to implement de-escalation trainings, improve de-escalation training and strategies. We are demanding that they implement improved training on the use of non-lethal force, and we are demanding that they implement improved cultural sensitivity training.
Body cam footage shows Officer Carlos Ramirez responding to a fight between a 17-year-old and his family. The video shows there's a language barrier with someone failing to sit down as ordered.
Have a seat right there. Have a seat. Yeah. My brother. Fine. Sit down. Hey, put down the knife. Put down the knife.
You can see the teen gets off the bike and fails to listen. Ramirez shoots the teen twice. Now, groups working closely with the Muslim community are asking why.
We believe that the officer should have used other actions other than potentially deadly force to ensure the safety of all those involved.
The Council on American Islamic Relations and supporters of the family stood outside City Hall calling for reform.
The teenage boy who was shot on Friday arrived in this country 2 months ago with his family from Afghanistan.
Ring video camera from a neighboring home captured the tense moments that prompted a call to 911 by a neighbor. This was minutes before the first officer arrived on scene. Police say the video shows a fight between the subject and his own family.
Started with the brother, carried on to a fight with the father, at which point you can see in the video, the suspect strikes the mother, knocks her down, strikes the sister, and then strikes at the father with the knife.
The family attorney says the teen is recovering at the hospital after undergoing 2 surgeries. Some of the demands from the civil rights activists include improving de-escalation strategies and use of non-lethal force, while also implementing cultural sensitive training.
In the southwest Chicago suburb of Oak Lawn, tensions boiling over between Arab American activists and police. Activists have been showing up at every police and fire commission meeting.
Shut down the video! Shut down the video!
Last week, chaos erupted after police supporters used their public comment time to show a video montage of officers getting killed in other cities. Officer Patrick O'Donnell appeared in court surrounded by around 40 other officers. O'Donnell pleaded not guilty to aggravated battery and official misconduct for his involvement in the beating of 17-year-old Hadi Abu Attila. No other officers have been charged.
Why are they beating him like this? It's a little old boy.
Last summer, a bystander video of the beating sparked kneels on the teenager's legs. A third officer later joins in, and O'Donnell uses his taser on Abu Attila, who was hospitalized for 6 days for a fracture to his pelvis, a broken nose, and internal bleeding of his brain. The incident started with police pulling over a car they say lacked a license plate and smelled of cannabis.
Crazy on you? Keep your hands up on the car for me.
A squad car camera shows Abu Attila running away. After catching up with him, the officers say Abu Attila reached for his shoulder bag. Police say they later recovered a loaded gun inside that bag.
Had the offender drawn that weapon, he could have shot him. Or were they supposed to wait for him to pull it out and then?
The officers have argued that they feared for their lives because they say that Hadi Abu Attila was reaching for a gun. What do you say?
We all saw the footage. I've seen it from multiple different angles, from the squad car cameras to the bystander videos, and at no point do I see him reaching for a gun.
Emma Melton of the Council on American Islamic Relations filed a civil rights lawsuit on behalf of Abu Attila against the 3 officers involved in the beating and the village of Oak Lawn.
Hearing that the chief of police agreed with this level of use of force and how these officers interacted with Hadi shows that this is something that could and probably will happen again.
Melton says Arab American residents have long complained about the Oak Lawn Police Department.
A lot of the police officers in that area are actually white, and so when dealing with people from another background, sometimes a lot of the cultural awareness and sensitivity can be lost.
Prosecutors in Philadelphia have charged a suspect in connection with vandalism at a mosque in the city. 47-year-old Jonathan Moon is accused of painting words and symbols on the Center for Human Excellence in West Oak Lane. Video shows the crime on Friday. A police officer recognized the suspect, contacted the detective in charge, and police made the arrest. The Council on American Islamic Relations is pushing for police to investigate the case as a hate crime.
The Council on American Islamic Relations joined the effort to reopen the mosque on campus at Shaw University Sunday afternoon. The civil rights and advocacy organization met with supporters at the Islamic Center of Morrisville. They held prayer and a town hall calling on the university to reopen their mosque, which has been closed to the public for 3 years. CAIR says in a time where Islamophobia and xenophobia are at the surface of our country's problems, making the mosque inaccessible is not the answer.
It leads to speculation that anti-Muslim bias may be playing a role here. And maybe it's not. But in the absence of a good explanation, it leaves you to think about the worst possible explanation. So this is why it's so important for Shaw University to come to the table, dialogue about this in an honest way, and then do the right thing. The end result of this is the same. The mosque should be reopened.
In a statement from the university sent back in February, Shaw said access to the mosque is permitted only for students in the wake of the pandemic. They also said they respect the First Amendment right to peacefully assemble and voice concerns. We'll continue to follow up on this story and share any updates as soon as we learn more.
A lawsuit filed by a Muslim advocacy group alleges corrections officers at a Missouri prison used pepper spray on Muslims while they were praying and then retaliated when they complained. The lawsuit was filed Thursday by the Council on American Islamic Relations, Missouri, and the CAIR Legal Fund. It alleges corrections officers at the state prison in Bonne Terre, Missouri, doused Muslims with pepper spray as they were praying in their housing unit in February 2021. The defendants are accused of violating the inmates' constitutional rights, including the right to freely practice religion. The plaintiffs are seeking a grand jury trial and that the court award damages.
Tonight, Whole Foods is apologizing to a Montgomery County woman who believes she was discriminated against because she was wearing a hijab.
I was so confused and shocked.
That's how Buhite Al-Jabri says she felt Monday right after paying for groceries at her neighborhood Whole Foods in Silver Spring. She says she was singled out by a security guard who accused her of stealing. Al-Jabri says she called for help and another employee confirmed she hadn't stolen a thing.
Do you believe that he targeted you because you are a Muslim woman wearing a hijab?
Definitely. He targeted me because the way I dress.
Reached for comment, Whole Foods Market sent us a statement. We're truly sorry for the experience Miss Al-Jabri had in our store. The individual involved works for a third party and is not a Whole Foods Market team member. His actions were unacceptable, and the store leadership team immediately reported the incident. The individual no longer works in our stores.
The response from Whole Foods, it falls short of what we're looking for.
Zainab Chaudhry is the Maryland director for the Council on American Islamic Relations. They're calling for Whole Foods to pull security footage and launch a full, transparent investigation.
Nobody should ever have to walk into any business and walk out feeling like they've been criminalized and humiliated. In communities of color, our communities, American Muslim communities, typically have become used to this kind of treatment, and it's not okay.
Al-Jabri and Chaudhry are also calling on Whole Foods to offer cultural competency training for its staff. They said one reason it was so important for them to get this story out there is to try and prevent it from happening again. Guys.
It has now been 48 hours since a known neo-Nazi organization marched through the city of Portland. They were shouting racist and homophobic slurs.
It's a very fluid movement. It's not like in the past when you would join the KKK and stick with it. These new types of groups like NSC 131 pop up all the time.
That's the research director at the Center for American Islamic Relations. He says that's why it's so difficult to track those groups.
These people could be your next door neighbor and you would never know it.
The march in total did not last that long. It actually ended right here along the steps of City Hall. Now the Center for American and Islamic Relations tells me the best way to combat these hate groups is to get to know your neighbor, get to know your community, so that when these groups do show up, you can act and come as a counter protest.
Tonight at 6, a local diner is facing outcry over an alleged case of discrimination against one of its workers. An employee who is Muslim was asked to take off their hijab or leave work. Good evening, I'm Dawn Timoney. Now civil rights activists are calling for an investigation. Ellen, the manager of this restaurant was already fired?
That's right, Dawn, and we will see if that's enough. We're here at Michael's Restaurant for that peaceful protest that's about to take place in just about a half hour. Now, this all stems from a young woman being told that she had to remove her head covering or hijab, and when she refused, she was told she had to go home. The young woman's aunt says her niece was so upset and crying because it's also Ramadan, so her head covering holds even more meaning to the teenager. Now, the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CAIR, is calling for an investigation, and in a statement, CAIR attorney Timothy Welbeck called what happened unlawful religious discrimination, which is more disturbing during this sacred time of the year. Now, I talked to the owner's mother. She's inside. She said she's been taking calls all day. She says the restaurant has been getting hundreds of death threats. She was crying. She said that she feels terrible. She wants to apologize and that the owner wants to apologize. She says this is not indicative of any of the values of anybody who works here. The manager, again, has been fired. But again, we will see if this is enough for the protesters who are just starting to turn out. Again, the protest is about to start at 7 o'clock. We're live in Glenside. Ellen Kaloje, Fox 29.
Scandal is growing. Tonight, we're learning nearly half of Antioch's police department is involved in the racist and homophobic text chains that have rocked the community. And the fallout is now escalating, with the Contra Costa County Public Defender's Office demanding the district attorney drop every single pending case brought by Antioch police.
It frightens the community to know that the people that are charged with protecting them, the people who are funded by their tax dollars, feel a certain way about them, are joking about committing violence against them. The number of officers involved is so deeply concerning. It raises questions about how this went on for so long, who was complicit, what was the impact on all of not just the cases, but the people who called for help.
Tonight, the Council on American Islamic Relations, San Francisco Bay Area, condemned the recent revelations. Its executive director says she's afraid of reading the messages and the effect they would have on her.
A man is facing charges for vandalizing a public school in Paterson, New Jersey. Mohammed Beckett is accused of using feces to write the word Allah on a sign in front of the South Paterson Elementary School. Beckett is charged with bias, intimidation, criminal mischief, and harassment. New Jersey's Council on American Islamic Relations is calling for a hate crime probe in this case.
Tonight, the New Jersey chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations says since only Allah was defaced and not the whole sign, it should be an immediate hate crime investigation.
The New Jersey chapter on the Council of American Islamic Relations wants that person charged with a hate crime.
Vakit is charged with bias, intimidation, criminal mischief, and harassment. New Jersey's Council on American Islamic Relations is calling for a hate crime probe in the wake of the vandalism.
Kansas Senator Mark Steffen has drawn some backlash tonight after comments made to a constituent of a different faith.
Everybody does come from that background. I know I'm a Muslim woman, and there are people who are atheists. So what would you say to those people who are kind of against a more biblical approach to certain laws? Like, how would you justify that?
Or more liberal Christians too, who aren't necessarily your branches. So. Well, I've got to be happy to try to convert you.
The Kansas chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations called the response inappropriate, condemning the idea that someone would have to convert their beliefs to receive representation from their elected official. Steffen originally denied making the comment at all, stating the claim was 100% inaccurate. He pivoted last night, posting a message instead accusing the liberal media of attacking his faith.
We are now hearing from the mayor of Prospect Park after he was barred from a White House Eid celebration earlier this week. And now a 9/11 era watch list is under fire. Mayor Mohammed Kariola was on his way to the White House when he got a call from the Secret Service saying he was not cleared for entry. And now the New Jersey chapter of the Council of American Islamic Relations and other advocates are demanding an apology and an end to the use of watch lists that has more than 1.5 million people, mostly Muslims, on it.
I'm not upset for not being at the White House. I think the point here is outside of me, who have a platform, who I have friends who could bring you all together. There is 1.5 million entries that could be suffering similarly.
About 1% of the names on the watch list are U.S. citizens. The change we want is for to make the watch list unpopular, and to make people not like the watch list.